let's go.
What's up, homies? Johnny here, and I am going to be rocking my first tutorial. I'm going to show you guys how to edit the perfect photo. First and foremost, I just want to say there's no such thing as editing the perfect photo. It's really based on your own personal preferences and what you like yourself. Now, my personal style is a lot of contrast, a little bit of vibrance, like more like kind of in-your-face punch type edit. But the thing is like people don't really realize how much editing goes into the post part of the photo. It's actually crazy because no photos are really that real these days because there's so much that goes into the editing after the fact. Now, if you look at this photo right here, there's nothing really special about it. It's just like a, cool photo of the bay. It's a beautiful location, amazing, but there's not a lot of pop to it. There's nothing really that jumps out at you. It's like, oh yeah, okay, cool. This is the original photo from my camera. It was taken with the A7R III and the Sony 24-70 G Master lens, aperture with the f2.8. It is my main go-to camera. So I'm gonna show you guys how I edit my own perfect photo. So go into Lightroom, pick your photos that you want to edit. So first thing is I'll go into basic as well. Just kidding. Go into auto and see what the program does to enhance the photo on its own. So basically what it'll do, it'll bring up the shadows. It'll basically adjust the photo to how it thinks it should be done naturally. So if you look at before, after, just basically made it more bright and took out the shadows. So there's nothing special. Excuse me. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to crank that contrast all the way. No, I'm just kidding. So I'm going to bring up the contrast just a little bit, bring down the highlights. Basically what the highlights do is exactly what it means is I reference them to the clouds. It basically enables you to see the clouds better. Takes out that brightness. Whites are exactly how it sounds, whites. So I'm going to leave the whites where they were. I think they look pretty good. Blacks, I'm going to bring the blacks up because I don't really want to see too much detail in these shadows over here. And dehaze, it's a new feature that they just came out with. It basically is like saturation and contrast on steroids, in my opinion. So I'm just going to bring it up just a touch. Clarity, exactly what it sounds like is clarity. If you crank it, it looks like nasty. I used to do that. My photos were so bad, but not anymore because I am, I have developed my own taste for what I like. So, and it's all based on your own personal preference, right? So bring up the clarity a bit, and that's good. Texture, I'm gonna bring the texture up just a touch because it'll show a little bit more detail in the water here. So now that the basic edit's done, I'm pretty happy with how it looks. I'm going to make the photo a little bit warmer. I think that's good. It'll kind of give that vibe that we're catching the sunset over here. And then we'll go into tone, curve. I give it a little bit of an S curve again because I like a little bit more contrast, a little bit more detail, a little bit more saturation. Detail, I go into here, I hold Alt and I click on masking and I crank it up, and it just basically, instead of masking the entire photo, it just sharpens up the whites. So yeah, that's good. Loop noise reduction is exactly what it sounds like. You could zoom in, it'll bring down the noise in the photo. So you see how we had a little bit of this grain, that one extreme to the other. So if we bring it up just a bit, I think it'll take out just enough noise where it'll look good. So now that we zoom out, I'm liking where this photo's going. You can see the sun coming in there. Give it a little bit of a vignette, and then I'm going to go into lens correction, remove chromatic aberration. Basically just gets rid of the fisheye part of your lens. So it basically it takes it from going like this and makes it like this. So you get more area and it looks flatter. Now you wouldn't be able to really tell to the naked eye, but yeah, that's what it does. So moving on, now that that's done, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna bump up the saturation or the vibrance up a little bit, the saturation up a little bit. I'm gonna bring down the whites because it's kind of blown out right here. Gonna make it a little bit brighter there. I think that's getting a little heavy. I notice we have a spot here on my lens. I probably didn't clean it very good. So if you go in there, boom, gone. Models, bro. How do you think they get rid of moles? Right? So now that that's gone, go out here. It's starting to look a little bit okay. I think it's too much saturation. So you can already see the big difference here between the two different photos. This one's doesn't have a lot going on. This one substantially different. So I'm gonna bring down the dehaze just a little bit because I think there's I don't like the hue of the yellow. See, now I'm talking to myself. Yeah. So actually I have been technically talking to myself because I'm talking to a camera. It's a lot harder than you think. So now that we got that out the way, we're gonna go into the HSL, which basically is your way to manipulate any different color you could think of. So you have your hue, your saturation, and your luminance. Hue is exactly what it means, is the hue of the color. So if we take, let's say, the yellows, for example, we can make them either like a green or an orange or whatever. So I'm gonna bring the yellow, I'm gonna make them a little bit more orange, just because I like to have that sunset effect in the back. I think it looks a lot cooler. So if we go back and see what it looked like before, so now it already looks a lot better. Greens, not gonna mess with the greens too much. The reds, there's not a lot of reds in this photo. Orange, that's a little bit too much, I would say. Saturation of the orange, I'm gonna bring it down just a touch. I think that's starting to look pretty good. The blues, I'm not really, the blues are too much up here. So I'm gonna bring the saturation of the blues down. That looks a lot more natural. Now let's go into effects. I'm gonna bring the vignetting up a little bit, not too much. Just want to accentuate the shadows in the bottom here. And then let's go to bring up the exposure just a touch. And I think I'm pretty happy with that picture. I feel like it's missing something, so I'm gonna go and I'm gonna give it a graduated filter. And oh, see, perfect. Now it's done, completed. Just kidding. So basically what this does is that you can put a layer on top of this that will give it an effect. So it'll give you an extra layer that you can mess with stuff. So see how the dehaze and everything is up. I'm just gonna bring everything back to where it should be. Bring up the contrast a little bit, bring down the saturation just a touch. So now, before, after. I'm fairly happy with this photo. Probably would post it. I don't know, might delete later, we'll see. So that photo is done, and now let's go to the next one. I'm gonna export this guy. Boom, done. Overwrite, because this is the second time I've recorded this. And now we just wait for Lightroom not to crash. Oh, there we are. Done. So next photo. This is another one. One of my favorites that I got while I was in one of the favorites that I got while I was in Vancouver. So I'm gonna go over here and I'm just gonna copy these settings and see what it looks like on this photo. Another cool thing that you can do, guys, is that once you've edited a photo to your own taste, you can go up here and call create a preset, and you can decide what packet or wherever you want to put it. I have a bunch of different presets that I've made over the years, and we'll call this one Bay Vibes. Yeah, catchy? No? Perfect. So now we're done with that. Created a preset. It is now in my preset area. Let's go to pack 1. Bay Vibes. Done. So that's a way you can save those settings. So now let's go to the next photo I want to edit, and we'll paste those settings and see what it looks like. Ugh, that's hideous. So I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to start from scratch. We'll click auto. I'm going to bring up the blues just a touch. Cool off the picture a bit. Same thing. Bring up that contrast. Bring up down the exposure. Highlights. Want those popping. Shadows. Don't really want a ton of shadows there. Blacks. Give it a little bit more feel to it there. Don't really like that. Yeah, that looks better. So if you go in here, you can adjust it all the way, a bunch of different ways. That's your crop. So I'm happy with that. Let's bring down these, the saturation just a bit. My battery's dying, don't die. No. So bring up the dehaze a little bit, because you know I love me that dehaze. And clarity up. No, bring the clarity down for this guy. I think that looks a little bit cooler. Let's go into the colors. I don't like the yellows and the oranges very much, so we'll go to HSL, yellow. Bring it make it a little bit more orange. We'll get that popping. Everybody's all about that pumpkin spice life this time of year. Greens, bring up the greens just a bit, give a little bit more pop to the bridge. Saturation of the oranges I'm going to bring down, and then same thing with the greens. I think I'm starting to get pretty happy with how this is looking. 4x5, because that's how Insta likes to play. And I think that's starting to look pretty good. So I think I'm going to bring up the shadows just a bit more, so that way you can see this couple down here, or mom and sister, whatever it is. Give a little bit more depth to the picture, and it's starting to look pretty good. So now I'm going to go into the effects. You know, I like me a little vignette, and then transform. Not going to do anything there. Lens correction, get rid of the fisheye, and then distortion, bring that up a bit. Vignetting, not so much. Sorry, I'm just talking to myself now, guys, and I'm pretty happy with how that photo looks. Maybe we'll change the clarity just a bit, a little bit more detail. Yeah, I think I'm pretty happy with that picture. Done. So there's how I've edited my perfect photo for you guys. Now again, I want to reiterate the fact that there is no such thing as a perfect photo, and that you should always just go with how you like your pictures edited. That's just all there is to it, guys. We'll catch you in the next tutorial, and we'll see you next time. Peace.
Let's go.